Aquarius, before you try to understand this message, feel your body first. Take a breath, right now. Because what brought you here is not curiosity, it's the weight you've been carrying without ever calling it pain. Not sadness, not fear. Just that quiet pressure in your chest that says, I've been strong for too long. Aquarius, you don't break. You hold. You adapt. You move forward even when something inside you is begging to rest. And lately, hasn't it felt like something in you is shifting not loudly but deeply? Like a part of you is ready to be released but doesn't know how yet. If this is landing in your body, type I'm ready in the comments. Not for me, for you. Because this is not a warning. It's an invitation. And what comes next might be the moment you finally stop carrying what was never yours to hold. Stay here with me for a moment. Not to fix anything, not to understand everything, just to let yourself be seen in a way you rarely allow. Aquarius, you've always been the one who stands a little apart. The observer. The thinker. The one who carries the world in your mind and still shows up with your heart open. You move through rooms sensing what others miss, reading between silences, holding space for everyone else to breathe. And somewhere along the way, you learned how to make that look effortless. But there are nights when the room is quiet, when no one needs you, when the noise finally settles, and that's when it rises. Not as a memory, not as a story, but as a sensation, a pressure that has no name, a presence that sits beside you, asking nothing yet refusing to leave. You don't talk about it because it doesn't feel like pain. You don't label it because it doesn't feel dramatic enough. It's just there. A subtle heaviness woven into your breath, into the way your shoulders hold themselves, into how you pause before saying yes one more time. And maybe you've wondered, is this just how life feels after a certain point? Is this what it means to be responsible, to be reliable, to be the one who doesn't fall apart? You've been so good at adapting, so good at becoming what the moment needs. You learned early how to stay calm when others were unraveling, how to move forward when things felt uncertain, how to turn chaos into something manageable. That skill became your strength, and your strength became your identity. But even the most brilliant minds grow tired of carrying the invisible. Even the most independent spirits long to set something down. You may not remember when it started. It doesn't arrive with a date or a single event. It builds slowly, like dust settling in corners no one checks anymore. Year by year. Decision by decision. Every time you said, I'll handle it, when you wanted to say, I need help. Every time you stayed quiet so the room could stay peaceful. Every time you chose to be strong instead of honest. What if the weight you feel isn't something wrong with you? What if it's simply the cost of being the one who never asked to be held? Aquarius, you don't carry this because you are weak. You carry it because you care. Because you see more. Because you feel more than you let on. But let me ask you something gently. When was the last time you felt truly light, not because life was perfect, but because you were fully yourself in it? Sometimes the body speaks when the mind grows tired of explaining. Sometimes the heaviness is not asking to be solved, only acknowledged. Not pushed away, not analyzed, just noticed. This isn't about changing who you are. It's about letting yourself rest inside who you've always been, without armor, without performance, without the need to hold everything together. And as you sit with this, even for a few breaths, you might sense it. That quiet presence, the one you've been carrying for so long, not as a burden, but as a story that's ready to be heard. And in that noticing, something begins to soften, not all at once, not loudly, just enough for you to feel the weight and finally recognize it for what it is. The quiet weight. There is a moment, Aquarius, when even the quiet begins to feel crowded. Not because the world is loud, but because you've learned how to hold everything inside without letting it move. You've always believed that calm was your gift, that if you stayed steady, others would feel safe, that if you kept going, things would eventually make sense. And for a long time, that worked. You became the one people leaned on, the one who didn't unravel, the one who could stand in the middle of uncertainty and still look composed. But there's a subtle cost to being that person. It arrives slowly, almost kindly, until one day you realize you no longer know how to speak when something hurts. You don't complain. You don't collapse. You simply absorb. And over time, strength begins to change its shape. It stops feeling like power and starts feeling like distance. From your own emotions, from your own needs, from the part of you that once knew how to ask for softness. You may not even notice when it happens. There is no dramatic breaking point. No single moment you can point to. Just a gradual quieting inside, where the words you never said settle into your body instead. Sometimes it shows up as a pause before you answer a question about how you're doing. Sometimes it's the way you say you're fine, even when something in you is tired of being fine. Sometimes it's the way you keep giving, long after your energy has asked for rest. You told yourself this is what resilience looks like, that this is maturity, that this is what it means to be dependable. But what if resilience was never meant to require self-erasure? What if the version of you that learned to stay silent did so only because it had no other choice at the time? Aquarius, you didn't become this way because you are closed. You became this way because you were needed. Because the world rewarded your steadiness. Because your heart learned that being strong kept things from falling apart. Yet even the strongest structures need space to breathe. Have you noticed how quiet your own inner world has become lately? Not peaceful. Just still. Like a room where the windows have been closed for too long. There is a difference between silence that heals and silence that hides. One allows you to rest. The other asks you to disappear. And maybe that's why something in you has begun to stir. Not to accuse you, not to shame you, but to gently remind you that you were never meant to vanish inside your strength. You are allowed to be held too. You are allowed to take up space in your own life. You are allowed to speak without translating everything into calm. Let me ask you something softly. If you didn't have to be strong for a moment, what would you finally say? There is no rush to answer. Just notice what moves in you when the question lands. Because this isn't about changing who you are. It's about remembering that your strength was always meant to protect you, not replace you. And as you sit with that, you may feel something shift. Not loudly. Not all at once. Just enough to remind you that your voice is still here, waiting. And when you're ready to listen, it will speak. And when that voice inside begins to stir again, it does not always rise through words. Sometimes, Aquarius, it moves through your body first. Quietly. Persistently. Like a message you tried to hold in your chest for too long, until your chest learned how to speak for you. You may have noticed it without naming it. A heaviness that comes and goes. A breath that feels shorter than it should. A tiredness that sleep cannot reach. Not because you are broken. Not because you are getting older. Not because you cannot handle life. This is what happens when feeling is postponed for too long. Your body is gentle, but it is honest. It carries what the mind refuses to face. It remembers every moment you stayed composed when you wanted to cry. Every time you stayed present for others while quietly leaving yourself behind. And it never blames you for that. It only asks to be heard. There is a quiet intelligence in you, Aquarius. You sense patterns before others do. You see beneath surfaces. You understand that everything is connected. But sometimes you forget that this includes you. You learn to live in your mind. To rise above emotion. To analyze, reframe, transcend. Yet your body has been waiting for you to come home. It speaks in subtle ways. A tightness before certain conversations. A wave of exhaustion after pretending you are fine. A sudden ache when something reminds you of what you never said. These are not random signals. They are stored stories. Each one holding a feeling that never had a safe place to land. And still, you keep going. You move through your days with grace. You smile. You fulfill your responsibilities. But beneath that, something in you is asking for a pause. Not to stop your life. Not to change everything. Just to finally listen. What if your body is not working against you? What if it is protecting you, in the only language left? Imagine for a moment that your chest could speak. What would it say? Not in full sentences, just in truth. There is no urgency here. No pressure to fix anything. Only a gentle invitation to feel what has been waiting. Because when emotion is finally allowed to move, it does not drown you, it clears you. You do not have to understand every sensation. You do not need a label for every ache. All you need is presence. A few quiet breaths. A hand on your heart. A willingness to stay with yourself instead of leaving. This is not weakness. This is integration. This is how strength returns to its original form. Not as armor, but as connection. You were never meant to live only in your head. You were meant to inhabit your whole being. And as you begin to listen, something shifts again. Not dramatically. Not all at once. Just enough to remind you that you are still here. That your body has not given up on you. That it has been patiently translating your silence into sensation. So let me ask you softly, what has your body been trying to tell you? Sit with that question for a moment. No judgment, no rush, because what is coming next is not about effort. It is about release. And when you are ready, you will feel the doorway opening. There is a moment that comes quietly, not with noise, not with warning. It arrives like the air shifting before a storm. The sky looks the same, but something inside you knows this weather is no longer meant to stay. You may feel it in the pauses between your thoughts. In the way the old answers no longer land. In the strange restlessness that shows up even on calm days. And you wonder, why does everything feel different when nothing has fallen apart? Because what is moving through you right now is not destruction. It is expansion. You are not breaking. You are outgrowing the shape you once needed. Aquarius, you were built to see beyond the present moment. You carry tomorrow in your chest. So when your inner world begins to shift, it is not chaos. It is your future knocking softly from inside your ribs. The version of you that survived the long nights did exactly what it came here to do. It held you together when you had no map. It protected your heart when you did not yet feel safe. But now that same armor feels heavy, not because it failed you, but because you no longer need to live inside it. Sometimes growth feels like grief because we are saying goodbye to the self that kept us alive. And you do not need to rush this farewell. You can sit with it, breathe with it. Let it dissolve slowly like morning fog lifting from the ocean. What if this feeling is not a warning but an invitation? An invitation to stop fighting the current. To trust that the tide knows where it is taking you. You may notice old dreams losing their color. Old routines no longer feeling sacred. Old goals feeling too small for the soul you are becoming. This does not mean you failed. It means you have arrived at the edge of your next horizon. Your nervous system may be adjusting to a wider world. Your heart may be learning a new rhythm. Your spirit may be stretching into space it has never been allowed to enter before. And still, a quiet fear whisper, what if I lose who I am? But hear me gently. You are not losing yourself. You are meeting yourself more honestly than ever. This is not a crisis. It is a recalibration, a realignment, a sacred reorientation of your inner compass. You are standing in the doorway of a life that matches the truth of your soul, not the expectations that shaped your past. Can you feel that soft courage beginning to rise? It does not shout. It does not push. It simply stands with you and says you are ready. Not ready because you know everything, but ready because you trust what is unfolding inside you, even when you cannot name it yet. Let yourself rest in this becoming. Let yourself be undefined for a while. There is beauty in not knowing who you are turning into. And as you breathe into this moment, notice the subtle light beginning to appear. Not behind you, but ahead. Something is waiting for you there. There is a quiet ache that comes when something familiar no longer feels like home. It does not arrive with anger. It arrives with a strange tenderness. The kind that whispers, this once saved you, but it cannot hold you anymore. You may still care. You may still feel grateful. And yet something inside you keeps leaning forward, as if your soul is stretching toward a life that has not yet learned your name. This is not rejection, it is recognition. There are seasons when survival is enough, when holding on is brave, when staying is the only way through the storm. And you honored that season, you lived it fully, you grew inside it. But now the air feels thinner, the room feels smaller. The dreams you once carried no longer fit in the same pockets of your heart. What if the discomfort you feel is not a sign of disloyalty, but a sign of evolution? You are not turning away from what mattered. You are turning toward what is becoming possible. Sometimes what once protected us becomes the very thing that limits us. Not because it changed, because you did. Your energy is different now. Your questions are deeper. Your silence carries more wisdom. And the life you are being called into requires more space than the one you built to survive. Aquarius, you have always been a bridge between worlds, between what is and what could be. So when something begins to feel too small, it is not because you are ungrateful. It is because your spirit is expanding beyond old borders. There may be guilt in this, a soft heaviness that asks, how can I move forward when this once meant everything? But love does not disappear when you grow. It transforms. It becomes a quiet blessing you carry with you, not a place you must remain. You are allowed to honor the past without living inside it. The people, the roles, the routines that once gave you safety did their sacred work. They kept you breathing. They kept you standing. They helped you find your strength. And now your strength is asking for a new direction. Can you feel the difference between comfort and alignment? Comfort soothes the edges of who you were. Alignment speaks to the truth of who you are becoming. Your heart already knows, even when your mind hesitates. Even when nostalgia tries to hold you still, there is a deeper current guiding you now. It does not rush. It does not force. It simply moves, inviting you to trust that growth is not betrayal. You are not leaving something behind. You are carrying its wisdom forward into a life that matches your expanded self. Take a breath here. Let your shoulders soften. Let the weight of obligation fall away. You do not owe your future to your past. You owe it to the part of you that is ready to live more honestly, more freely, more fully. And as you stand in this gentle release, notice how the space around you begins to open. There is room now for something new to finally find you. There is a gentler energy moving toward you now. You may feel it in the quiet moments, when you are not trying, not reaching, not holding the world together. It feels different from effort, different from striving. It feels like something finally meeting you halfway. For so long, you learned to survive by giving, by proving, by carrying more than was ever yours. You learned that love must be earned, that rest must be justified, that joy must come with a cost. But something inside you has softened, not weakened. Softened in a way that allows light to pass through. And now, what is returning to you is not a reward. It is a reflection of who you are becoming. You are no longer negotiating your worth. You are no longer shrinking to be chosen. You are standing in a quieter truth that says, I am already enough. This is why doors are opening without struggle, why certain connections feel effortless, why opportunities arrive without you chasing them. It is not coincidence. It is coherence. Your inner world has shifted, and the outer world is learning how to respond. Aquarius, you were born to imagine a future where people are met with dignity, where hearts are not measured by sacrifice. And now you are learning to live that vision inside your own life. Receiving may feel unfamiliar. It may stir a strange vulnerability. You may wonder, what if I take this and lose it again? But this time is different. Not because the world is safer, but because you are. You have learned when to hold on and when to let go. You have learned how to listen to the subtle language of your own needs. You have learned that you do not have to disappear to be loved. So when something reaches for you now, you can meet it without fear, without armor, without apology. What would it feel like to let yourself be supported without explaining why you deserve it? There is a new rhythm in your life. Slower, softer, more intentional. It invites you to rest in the spaces you once rushed through, to notice the warmth of connection, to accept joy without bracing for loss. This is not luck, it is alignment. The universe is not testing you anymore. It is responding to the truth you finally chose to live. And in this gentle exchange, you begin to remember that you were never meant to carry everything alone. You were meant to share the weight, to receive the care, to allow yourself to be seen. As you breathe into this new openness, feel how your heart stays steady, how your shoulders release, how your spirit settles into its own belonging. There is more waiting for you, not in the distance, but in the present moment, quietly arriving. There comes a moment when the world grows quiet around you. Not because everything has stopped, but because you are finally listening inward. It often happens at night, when the lights soften, when the noise of the day drifts away like distant traffic, when the space between your breaths begins to feel sacred. This is where you meet yourself again, not the version shaped by expectation, not the one defined by responsibility, but the one who has been waiting patiently beneath the surface. You may notice how your body responds to stillness, how your chest rises and falls with a new honesty, how the tension you carried for years starts to loosen its grip. Nothing magical is happening. Nothing mysterious is required. Only your presence. When you place your hand over your heart, you are not asking for anything. You are acknowledging something that has always been there. Your own life, your own rhythm, your own right to exist without proving. In this quiet, you are not trying to fix yourself. You are allowing yourself to be whole without conditions. Aquarius, you spend so much of your time looking outward, dreaming of a better world, imagining what could be. But even visionaries must come home to themselves, because no future is sustainable if the present is ignored. As you breathe slowly, you may feel waves of emotion rise, not as pain, but as release. Like a long exhale after holding the air too long, you are not letting go of who you are. You are remembering. There is something deeply grounding about choosing yourself in a gentle way, not through effort, not through struggle, but through simple awareness. What would it feel like to trust that you do not need to carry everything anymore? To let the weight soften, to allow your nervous system to rest, to let your spirit settle into its own center. In this moment, you are not small. You are vast as the night sky above you, as steady as the stars that guide without speaking. Your breath becomes a bridge between who you were and who you are becoming. And in this space, you are not reaching for the future. You are standing in yourself. There is a quiet dignity in this return, a strength that does not announce itself, a courage that moves in silence. You may notice how the world feels different when you are no longer fighting it, when you are simply here, alive, present. This is not an ending. It is a homecoming. As the stillness wraps around you, feel how safe it is to be inside your own heart, how gentle it can be to exist without armor, how natural it feels to belong to yourself. And when you open your eyes again, carry this softness with you. Let it guide your next step. Let it remind you that you never left yourself behind. You only needed a quiet moment to return. There is a stillness now that feels different from before. Not empty, not heavy, but full of quiet certainty, like standing at the edge of the ocean at dawn, when the sky is neither night nor morning, and everything feels possible without needing to be explained. You may notice how your breath feels steadier, how your thoughts are softer, How your heart is no longer racing towards something it cannot yet see. This is not delay, it is arrival. You have not missed your moment. You have been preparing for it in ways you could not measure. In silence, in patience, in endurance. Every step you thought was too slow was shaping the ground beneath you. Every pause you feared was teaching your soul how to listen. Aquarius, you move on a timeline that does not belong to clocks. You move in seasons of becoming. You move in rhythms that honor meaning over speed. So when you look around and feel different, it is not because you are behind. It is because you are finally in sync with who you are meant to be. There is nothing left to chase. Nothing left to prove. You are no longer running from yourself. You are standing inside your own life. What if this is the moment you stop measuring your worth by distance and start feeling it in presence? You have carried enough, you have endured enough. You have given more than most will ever see. And now, you are allowed to set the weight down. Not because you are tired, but because you are free. Free to choose what feels true. Free to move without apology. Free to trust the quiet voice inside you that knows the way forward. There is a gentle light forming ahead, not blinding, not demanding, just steady it welcomes you. And as you step into this new space, notice how your body responds, how your shoulders release, how your heart expands, how your spirit settles into a deeper peace. You are not starting over. You are continuing from a place of clarity. There is wisdom in you now that did not exist before. There is compassion that has been earned. There is strength that no longer needs to be loud. You are becoming the version of yourself who no longer waits for permission to live honestly. And as this chapter opens, there is no rush, no countdown, no pressure, only presence, only breath, only this quiet truth that you are exactly where you need to be. Let this moment land gently in you. Let it mark the beginning of a life lived with intention, with courage, with grace. And from here, everything begins to move. The shift begins. And now, Aquarius, just take one more slow breath with me. Feel where you are. Not where you were. Not where you think you should be. But right here, in this moment, still standing, still becoming. If something in you shifted tonight, even just a little, that is not coincidence. That is you remembering who you are. You did not come here to be fixed. You came here to be seen. And in being seen, you allowed yourself to soften, to open, to return. There is a quiet power in that. Somewhere out there, another Aquarius is feeling the same release. The same warmth. The same hope rising like dawn. You are not alone in this moment. You are part of a living constellation of souls choosing to grow together. So if this message touched you, leave us below. Just one word. One feeling. One truth you are ready to claim. And if you feel called to stay, to keep walking this path of healing and awareness, subscribe not to a channel, but to the version of you that is finally choosing light. Trust yourself. Trust what is unfolding. Trust that the universe never rushes and never arrives late. You are right on time. The next message is already on its way. The journey is still opening. Until we meet again, stay gentle with your heart. Stay open to the sky. And remember, you are becoming.